So our final um, way to genotype these is when we're dealing with X-linked inheritance. So X-linked means it's only passed down on the X chromosome. So the gene is located on the X chromosome only. And remember, when on our sex chromosomes, the 23rd chromosome, you can either have two X's or an X and a Y. And so the X's come from, the X's are the mom's 23rd chromosome pair, and the XY is the dad's 23rd chromosome pair. So the Y chromosome doesn't have any alleles for that gene. So males, the XY chromosomes, only have one allele of that trait, and it's hooked onto their X chromosome. So in males, their phenotype is just automatically whatever they have on the X chromosome. The Y chromosome doesn't influence it at all. So only the mom can be the carrier of the recessive trait. So a carrier is a dominant phenotype, but it carries the recessive gene to pass it on to the children. So since they have a dominant part in their genotype, they're going to have that dominant phenotype, but their other allele on that gene might have a recessive that is hidden, but they can still pass on to their children, and that's what carrying means. So colorblindness is an X-linked recessive trait. So here's the X chromosome, and on the X chromosome, the dominant gene for not colorblindness would be the capital R. And here's the X chromosome, but the recessive trait for colorblindness would be a lowercase r. So the question is, a colorblind dad and not colorblind mom have a child. Well, if it's colorblind dad, then dads are going to have XY chromosomes in that 23rd pair. And if he's colorblind, then that means he's going to be recessive, that little lowercase r. But it's only going to show up on the X, not the Y. The Y is not going to have anything to do with it. It's not going to carry one thing or the other because this gene is X-linked. So this is going to be dad. And then a not colorblind mom have a child. So a not colorblind mom would have to have a dominant R for not colorblind. And then her second X chromosome could be another capital R for not colorblind, or a recessive R for colorblind. Now, since these are true breeding parents, we're going to, we know that these are going to be homozygous parents. So the mom is going to have both capital R's for both of her X chromosomes. And the dad is going to just have a recessive R on his one X chromosome. So if we do a Punnett square, then we'll have a dominant R and a recessive R, and a dominant R and a Y. Dominant R, recessive R, and a dominant R and just a Y. So what are the chances that their child will be colorblind? Well, if you look at all of these, this dominant R and recessive R, that means they're not going to be colorblind because we have that dominant R in there for no color blindness. And then on this one, we have a dominant R for not colorblind and just a Y. So the Y just doesn't even enter into it. The Y, it doesn't matter because the Y doesn't have the gene one way or the other on it. So this is also going to be not colorblind. Down here, the dominant R wins over the lowercase r, so not colorblind. And same with this, the Y doesn't really matter, and so we're going to have not colorblind. So the chances that the child will be colorblind is 0% if the mom is homozygous for not colorblind. Now let's try another one. A colorblind dad. So if the dad's colorblind, we know he's going to have a lowercase r on his X chromosome, and the Y chromosome just has nothing. And a carrier mom. So a carrier for colorblindness in the mom means she's not going to be colorblind herself, so she's going to have that dominant R on one of her X chromosomes, but the other X chromosome is going to be a little r for colorblindness. So she's not colorblind because the capital R wins against the recessive colorblindness, but she's still going to have that colorblind gene on her second X chromosome that she could possibly pass down to her children. So let's do a Punnett square for this. So the mom is going to have one X chromosome that's dominant for not colorblindness and one X chromosome that's recessive for colorblindness. And then the dad is going to have his X chromosome recessive for colorblindness, and then his other sex chromosome is going to be Y. So if we put these together, we're going to have an X dominant R and an X recessive R, an X recessive R and an X recessive R. And over here we're going to have an X dominant R and a Y. And down here we're going to have an X recessive R and a Y. So how many kids will be colorblind if they have 4 kids? So we have 4 possibilities here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if they have 4 kids with one of each of these genotypes, which ones are the colorblind ones? Well, we can't do this top left one because we have a dominant R for not colorblindness, and we can't use this top one because this is a dominant R for not colorblindness. But down here we have 2 recessive R's for colorblindness, and down here we have a recessive R on the Y chromosome, or on the X chromosome for colorblindness, and the Y chromosome just doesn't contribute anything. So we're going to have 2 out of the 4 children are going to be colorblind. So 2 out of the 4. Then the next question is, how many kids will be carriers for colorblindness? So if you're a carrier for colorblindness, you don't have colorblindness yourself, but you do have the gene for colorblindness that you can pass on to your children. So that would be this box right here, because this child does not have colorblindness because it has a dominant capital R there, but her second chromosome has that recessive R, so she could possibly pass that down to her children. So this would be 1 carrier. And then how many sons will be carriers for colorblindness? Well, sons do not have a second X chromosome to carry a recessive gene along. They either have colorblindness or they don't, because they only have 1 X chromosome. So we're going to have 0 sons as carriers. So again, the carrier is going to be female because she's going to have 2 X chromosomes, one of them can have the recessive gene that she could pass on to her children, but the other one has the dominant gene, so she herself is not going to be colorblind. And that's it. It's really not as complicated as it seems at first. Try not to overthink it, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I hope this is clear.